Okay, Pete. Sorry, I haven't spoke. Somebody's saying I need to talk. Don't know really what to say, other than hi and hope you're all well. This is one of my big Kopinski books with a blank cover. These are like limited to 100 editions, and as you can see, there's nothing printed on the cover, so I do like an individual drawing. Don't know if any of you saw the Akira, I think it was a reel I posted the other day. That was one of these. So at the request of the person who bought it, they asked for an Akira themed sketch, so quite good fun to do. And the paper's quite nice as well. And I tend to do this kind of black line with the Pentel fine brush. Then I usually add some grey tone, either with a watered down ink or a grey version of this brush, but I'm currently finding it hard to get hold of those, so probably due to Brexit or COVID or something like that. So I've been using a watered down black ink to get the grey wash effect more recently. So I was asked if I can explain my method of undersketching. So really I'm not, I should warn you as well, my son may shout up at any point because they're off school at the moment and he doesn't know I've just gone live on Instagram, so bear with me if you hear me shouting back down at him. I'm not like, as a lot of you I know will be following Kim Jong-gi, I'm not as comfortable with drawing without some kind of starting point. I think maybe it's a bit of confidence, and but also I'm not great at sort of conjuring up an image in my head. I prefer to sort of have some flowing lines on there that help me to, I have an idea of the theme that I want to do, but I quite like those early flowing lines to give some kind of movement or poise to the character that I'm doing. So I just find that really helps me get over the initial sort of sort of terror of a blank white page, which I'm sure a lot of you know. It can be quite daunting at first to just sit staring at a blank page thinking, what shall I do? So I find these sort of loose flowing construction lines, I suppose you'd call them, or gesture lines maybe. I don't really know the correct term for them, but they just help me to get a bit of fluidity and motion into the initial sort of idea, rather than it just being a dude sort of stood there kind of staring at you, which is okay, but sometimes it can be a bit boring, you know. And you can see I make sort of small adjustments as I go along to the sketch, like that hand I'm going to move up a little bit, but it's just helping me to get a little bit of sort of movement, as I say, and fluidity, and to stop my drawing being too sort of static and maybe stagnant. The pen, someone's asked, it's a Pentel brush pen FL2F. So it's like the finer version of the Pentel brush pens, I think. Yeah, I'm drawing with no reference, and somebody said brush pens stress them out, and they really stressed me out for a long time. I got really fed up with them and frustrated. It was actually Kim Jung-gi who said to me, you just need to stick at it and learn to, one of the keys was to really get on top of the amount of pressure you apply as you're drawing, with it. Something maybe not quite as natural to, I know that, a lot of the guys in Japan and places like that are much more used to using brushes for writing as well. So that's maybe that sort of understanding of the way the tip moves, the brush moves under different pressures is a little bit more instinctive, but it is something you can learn, and trust me, I was terrible at first. I've got some old drawings, well, I think I've actually thrown them in the bin, they were that bad, but where I just couldn't get kind of on top of it, and really frustrated with it. But it's just that thing of learning to have a really gentle touch when you need to stay on top of the line, weight, as it were, and that's one of the beauties of it as well, is once you get to grips with it, you can really add depth and movement with simply through your brush control. So it's worth sticking with, but of course don't think you're going to suddenly be able to draw like Kim Jung-gi, because you're not. You hopefully will take a little bit of what he does and incorporate it into your own style, as it were. It's also worth, when you, like here, I put one shoulder in, and I'm now starting to think about where the other one's going to be, so I can kind of, without drawing the line, I can kind of just plan roughly where it's going to be, and then follow the line round, and then using tricks like I've just done there, a sort of bracelet or an armband. They can help to reinforce the perspective on that part of the drawing, if you understand what I mean. And you shouldn't really need to do much more than that. And then I think the key is to try and get to a point where you just able to put enough information in to make your drawing understandable, interesting, but still sort of fluid and full of movement, I suppose. No, I don't refill the brush pen. Somebody said I'm very slow. I'm very sorry. I'm very old as well. So when you get old, you're allowed to be slow. Struggling to read all these messages. Sorry if you're sending. I'm trying to look while drawing, and they're scrolling through quite quickly. So sorry if I miss anybody's questions. Thanks also for all you. There's a lot of people saying very kind things. It's very humbling, to be honest, because I didn't really ever think I'd be so well regarded by so many people. So I really do appreciate it, and I think you must remember that really I'm just doing something I love over and over. Is how I got to where I am, and I didn't really consider money or where I was going to get to with this as a career. I just really, it was the only thing I was any good at. I was a bit of a weird kid, not too sociable, and I just buried myself in my drawing from an early age, and that's kind of how I've ended up where I am, I think. It's always worth considering your perspective as well. You see, I've just drawn that sort of simple, really a scabbard. It's quite easy I could have quite easily done it fairly straight on, and it wouldn't have looked too bad like that. But just by considering it in its sort of perspective form, I mean, that's what people like Kim Jung-gi are so good at doing, is placing these objects, which is essentially a simple shape drawn in perspective. So it's really like that with a rounded end, But you take opportunity wherever you can to place things like that, like the dagger I drew in his hand. I could have had him holding it, very straight on like this, but by angling the hand a little, wrapping the edge of the fingers around, and then thinking of it in its sort of perspective form, just makes it a bit more interesting. And I really think it's important, to when you're trying to move your drawing forward a level or up a level, is to consider all those sorts of elements and use Don't be lazy. Don't always place them in their most simple manner or easiest to draw, but actually just put a bit of thought behind these, these relatively sort of small elements. But if you do it right, they all come together to form something which is a bit more believable, I think, Like here, I could make this another kind of weird, big blade or something. I've got to consider when I come to do the end there, that it's got to be in perspective, so it sits with the angle of the scabbard. So another thing, when you're using the brush pens, I'm still struggle with this a bit myself, but is to not be afraid to put some pretty large areas of black in. Probably not as sort of useful, well, not useful, but not as applicable in this case, because I'm going to go over with a grey wash afterwards. But if you're just doing an ink drawing, if you are quite brave and have some areas that are quite solid blacks, it really sort of helps to balance it out. If you just rely on the line drawing of the brush pen, I think you're sort of losing a bit of what it's so good at, which is being able to kind of flood areas with black and give weight to certain parts of the figure. And then when you're drawing the fabric like this, try and consider it as one sheet. You can do it again with, if you curve pieces of paper, you can see how it works, and consider that sort of movement rather than just having it kind of just hanging there. And it's really useful with those flowing elements like hair, fabric, the elements that have the most movement to them are really useful to add more movement to your figure and give it dynamism. So then you're not just relying on your pose and the gesture that you've put into the figure, but and then imparting a bit more movement with the elements that are kind of hanging on him or her, or the elements that are integral to the design of the figure. They can have their own movement and help to give your character a bit of life and dynamism. I hope I'm not waffling too much. Again, someone's asked the pen. I think my friend Kai's on here. Hey Kai. It's a Pentel FL2F, anyone who's asking. And I'm trying to go a bit faster because someone said I was too slow. Again, here, like I said earlier, don't be afraid to, I've kind of roughed in another leg there, but really, there's no reason that can't be almost in shadow, and it still does its completely in shadow actually, and it still does the job that I need of it. And here, where I'm putting these straps onto the sort of lower leg again are important because they're just helping to add a bit of perspective to the lower leg, so that it's helping it to read that it's kind of angled slightly towards the viewer. I'm left-handed. Somebody's asked if I'm left-handed. I'm left-handed predominantly. I can draw with my right a little bit, but I'm not, like the fine motor skills aren't as good with my right hand. Someone's asked what kind of paper. The paper is actually a blank cover of my big Kopinski book, which you can sort of order either by direct messaging me on Instagram or through a French publisher called Corette Editions, and they're pretty expensive. They're like €300, but obviously you get a blank cover than the actual book, which is pretty big and a nice kind of funky colour section. And obviously the original one-off cover like this that I'm drawing, which when finished will be watercolour coloured over this black, and then I'll add a grey wash ink and then kind of a nice watercolour-y finish to it. So, you know, it's pretty expensive, but you know, you do get an original cover painting and the book, which is normally I think €70 or something. So it's, you know, it's not too bad. Oh, somebody's tired of Germanic Norse stuff. I'm sorry, I'll try to do something different next time. My approach to mistakes is they're just part of the process, really, and you know, I still make them. Sometimes it's a matter of, you know, just being happy enough with it being close enough to what you envisaged to kind of leave it and let it kind of stay in the drawing. Or, you know, if it's really bad, most of them you can fix with some paint or ink or whatever medium you're using, but it's just part of the process is making mistakes. I think unavoidable as it were. Try not to beat myself up too much if I make them. Also try not to look at other people's work and kind of wish that I could draw like that, because I don't think that's too constructive either, to be always striving to be somebody else, as it were. It's not an ideal mindset to work within. I don't think you can sort of end up really beating yourself up. And obviously you love other people's work mainly because it's, well, usually because it's good, and secondly because it's different to the work you can do. So you know, it's not always the right way to try and be a complete replica of those that you love. It's more try and take it on board and incorporate it into your own version. I think that's how you wind up with your own style at the end of the day, is to sort of mimic those guys that you really like, and then you become the sum of all your influences, really. So I'm just mixing up a little grey wash here of just a Chinese ink. And it's two-handed, but more because I've got water on this one, and the ink, the paper's very porous, so it doesn't stay wet on the paper for too long. So if I have an ink brush here and then one with just water on, I can kind of move things around enough to get the effects that I'm looking for. Also, I'm trying to, consider, I mean, it's very rough, but a bit of a light source, and then working around that. Someone's asked if I use Copic markers. Oops. Yeah, I do, yeah, quite a lot. Not so much these days, but hold on. I'm just going to have a word with my son. Yeah? I don't know, I'm on Instagram Live Art. Yeah. See you in a bit. Don't know if you can hear it on the video, audio. It's a classic British summer here, raining heavily, windy, not particularly warm. Someone's mentioned how I'm moving around the image a lot while I'm going. That's just me being disorganised, I'm afraid. I'm sure there's a more efficient way to do it. I'm just not the most efficient of artists, I don't think. Also, I'll forget stuff if I don't tackle it the moment I think of it. So often I'll see something and think, oh, I must do that. And if I don't do it, because I'm old and a bit kind of aging, I tend to forget stuff a little. Jeff Muller, hi Jeff's asked if there will be another big Kopinski. What I'm seriously considering at the moment is maybe a Kickstarter to do a real big kind of volume, full colour, featuring art, a lot of artwork that I've done over the years for various companies. I've done a lot for. I've done over like 150 Magic the Gathering cards and so many pieces for Cool Mini or Not, which is a board game company who I do a lot of work for, and not sure if I'll be allowed to use the Games Workshop stuff I've done, but there's various other bits that I've done for video game companies, so I'm kind of considering trying to do some kind of a Kickstarter to do a real sort of nice coffee table type big book. It's just a matter of me getting organised enough to do it, and then hoping that I have enough interest to do the book that I want to do, because there's so much. I've done so much original work for so many different projects and also different styles that I need to be able to do something that sort of does the paintings justice, rather than being tiny little reproductions that don't quite get the scale or the kind of the real level of sort of detail that's gone into the original paintings. So that's one of the things I'm considering now. Also maybe to have some kind of sections of where I break down techniques, or I could look at having sections of bigger paintings where I explain the process and also show you some of the process drawings and preliminary sketches and colour roughs and things like that, which I don't know, I always find interesting when artists I admire do that sort of stuff, so it may be something that you guys might like to see. I don't really know, but anyway, that's probably what I'll look at doing next. It's just a matter of getting organised and getting some help to do it. There's a lot of things I should be doing more of, but I struggle to do it because I'm so busy drawing and painting, really. Like, I should build my YouTube channel and Twitch and lots of other things, but time is the problem. Yeah, you're right. Maybe I need to hire someone to help me out with that stuff. Someone's just mentioned, but I don't think it's something I can tackle myself. So yeah, there you go. That's pretty much how I go ahead and do these blank covers of the big Kopinski. And you can see there's some areas that aren't quite right, like maybe this foot's a little bit awkward, but you know, for the sake of the drawing, they kind of do enough, and I'm happy to leave those little sort of errors and areas that, and maybe if I was doing a bigger painting I'd redraw, but for this kind of stuff I think you actually, if you're not careful, you can lose some of the sort of movement and dynamism that you got in there by working and reworking things, so I'll often leave them like that. Someone's asked, I'm going to paint it. I will paint it, but I'll have to leave it probably a good couple of hours for this ink to really dry, because if I start to put the watercolours on the top of this right now, they're just going to kind of bleed into a brown mess, and I'll lose the sort of effect and the any definition between the colours. They'll just kind of end up merging together, so I probably will. Also, it's not that interesting, it's just get the colour and flood it with the area, because all the tonal work's been done with the grey, so the great thing about this technique is you can do most of the bulk of your work at this point, and then when you come to colour it, it's pretty much a flat wash, and then let the grey underdrawing kind of show through, and you know, you don't need to do much more than that. So really I've done most of the work. Do apologise to the one or two people who said I was a bit slow, and the other person who was a bit bored of Germanic, Norse stuff. I'll try and think of something different to do next time. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to fire away now before I sign off. And you're all far too kind to me, really. Thank you for all the nice comments. I may upload this to YouTube if it's a decent quality. I've got my own YouTube channel on there, which I'm not uploading stuff to as much as I should, I know, but I may put this on there. Otherwise, if it's something that people are interested, I'll make sure that I do, you know, at least one or two of these a week on here on Instagram. If it's something that you guys would like to see a bit more of, then I'll definitely oblige. I'm going to turn back and read some comments here. Do you ever get tired? Do you understand 5-point perspective? Not at all, no. I missed, yeah, I'll try and upload to YouTube. Skeletal structure, yes, for drawing the humans is really useful if you can learn a sort of a sort of basic understanding of anatomy is really useful, and then you know, you can build upon that. But anatomy knowledge can be really useful. Comic books, I'd done a couple of comic books, but I was so slow that I just couldn't make it pay. It was terrible, really. So I don't think I'm very good at it either. What object is hardest for you to draw? I don't know. I was given a test by the guys at Super Annie to draw from memory a milk carton, you know, the cardboard milk cartons with one side open, like when you pour the milk out, and that was pretty hard. I got it wrong and failed. So yeah, that's pretty difficult. Some demons in my style. Okay, maybe I'll do some demons. Got my own demons at the moment anyway. Most important thing to study for painting and drawing. I don't think there's any one thing to study. It's just to study hard, work on the areas that you maybe are weak with, and break things down to the most simple at the beginning and build from there. I do look at reference, not a lot for this kind of thing, but if I'm doing a bigger painting or something where I'm really struggling, I'll dig some reference out and do it that way. The greys here are Chinese ink, just watered down in a little lid like that, mixed with water and applied. Is cycling useful in my artwork? It's useful in my head. If I didn't cycle, I think I'd go insane. It's my sort of kind of way to clear my head a little bit. Okay, I'm going to sign off now, guys. So thanks everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. As I said, this is the big Kopinski blank cover edition I've just drawn. It's limited to 100 copies, so I think I'm about halfway through them at the moment. So that's what I've drawn on there. If I pull back, you can see it's a book with the big Kopinski on the spine there. So I'll make sure next time I do one of these I hook it up on Instagram, and hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and keep sketching.